I'm just going to get this dialed in to see if everything is okay with the stream, and make sure myself is muted. So I will start momentarily. Again, this is Tony Leonard, and kind of doing a process from 3D to 2D use. And I want to say special thanks to everyone over at Pixelogic for having me in on the stream. And so today I'm going to probably start from scratch, build something up, and then go in a few different directions. One of which being that I'll try to do something where I go to something that's painted, and then something that also just uses line art treatment. Hi, how's it going? Okay, so yes, I know my ZBrush is blank, so let's fill it up. So I had something in mind that I wanted to kind of sculpt up. Here recently, in and around Facebook, I've been messing around out of an appreciation for the Blade Runner films. And I started something along with a friend, fellow designer named John Fry. He's a really great industrial designer over at Honda, and he has some awesome shape language. And we got to thinking, and I created something called the Spinner Challenge from the spinner flying cars in the Blade Runner films. And I've been playing around with some shape language. So probably I should show you this. I'll move this over just a bit. So on this screen, I have a couple of different selections of some drawings that I made. So these are just traditional 2D drawings that I've gone ahead and scanned and just done a little cleanup. It's still like really just scanned them in, so I haven't done much, but created a version that is line art, and some of them have like a Copic marker on it. And usually, you know, I create thumbnails a lot this way to understand some shapes, but to get things a little bit more dialed in, I thought it would be cool if I build a ZBrush version inspired by some of this shape language. And so I'm going to try to do that. And I guess you can. I've invited a lot of other folks to try it out. You even had, you know, folks like Scott Robertson from Design Studio Press, Lauren Wood as well, and a number of great other artists got in on the challenge that I spread on Facebook. And so it's actually a thing. If you go out and you do a search on the hashtag the Spinner Challenge, it's pretty cool. And, you know, I'm inviting people, you know, to do their own version, and then, you know, try to produce a piece of art doing their own personal spinner, and then nominating another artist to do it on it. So it's a lot of fun. But back to ZBrush. I'm just gonna click my see-through just a little bit here, so I can see what's underneath Photoshop. And so I just choose as a start regular cube. I'm gonna make Polymesh 3D. And actually, I'd like to start from something like a Q cube. So I'm going to go ahead and initialize it, turn it into a Q cube. So yeah, 2x2x2 is a good start. So I'll just go by default. And let's see. Yeah, that's fairly sized. Okay. So I'll get this bigger. I may adjust the scale a little bit later. Alright, I can do it now. And, use the world space widget. Get it up a little bit. Yep, that'll work. What I'm thinking, I think, as a start. And bring this back down. So I had this idea of taking a simple object and maybe doing something like B shortcut and Z, and then M for Z modeler. We'll Alt here. So I'm going to move these to forward just a little bit. actually, you know what? I'll do this. Do that. And then I'll unhide it. And I'll move it. There we go. So I just want to maybe click here, mask that off, move it just a bit. What am I doing? Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just looking at the comments. Anyway, let's start it this way. Do this. Face. And I'm going to do a little bit of an extrude. Sync poly is fine. And, that would give me a little bit more width, I think. And I'm going to do these front, pull it out. That looks good. And let's see if I can grab this. Pull these out. Go. And let's see. Use transpose from here. Let's see here. I think I'm going to use Q-mesh with maybe quarter step. Pull that out. Pull that out. Yeah, that might work. And I think maybe here, do some things. Extrude here. And let's see here. Here I think I'm also going to do Q-mesh. So if you guys have any questions or anything, please do ask. I am open to answer some questions. And last time around, when we got started, I brought up a couple of images, basically about doing some line art and how to do it. And so I kind of showed you my separation method in Photoshop. And let's see here. That's a little bit different. There we go. So in here I had a couple of things like line art samples. So I still need to probably connect a site so I can show you guys these things. But if you were doing something like a comics treatment, something like this would be awesome. So it's really quite simple. You can either make a material with 3D posterization, you know, sort of like in a toon shader and do a BPR, or in some cases you can shoot it over to Keyshot directly and just use some of the toon shaders by just adjusting some of the sliders for the contour, the width, and the angle I believe, and size of the line in Keyshot. And you know, I separated this and used some of my own custom halftone screens on it. And all of this is like camera ready, you know, ready to go bitmapped apart. So like if you were using this for print purposes or any type of comic production art, you could totally use it for that. And then finally, usually when I save it as a bitmap, it kills every bit of gray pixel. So thank you, Doug. But yeah, you could do something like that. I think with what I'm going to try to build now, I might actually try and use in a layout. So expect later on down the line, after I try to model some things out, what I'm going to do is take it and try to make a scene out of it. And we'll see where we can go. So try to take this and do extrude to here. Yeah, actually, let's do this. I should probably Q-mesh this and do line full step. There we go. Use a regular move tool. Bring this down. That should work. Alright, so later I'm making just a block, kind of block out, and then I'm gonna switch up some things. So actually B, Z, M. Extrude. And maybe a few more. Oops. This guy and this guy. I'll take him and extrude him out a little longer. So I'm just kind of trying to capture, for any of you who are familiar, or I'm sure a lot of you have seen the new Blade Runner 2049 movie. I was a big fan of the classic film from the 80s, and I just loved the shape, so I wanted to kind of play around with it. So I thought it would be cool to kind of build a version in at least, you know, sort of like a concept mesh version, based off of a drawing or something like that. And so I'm just gonna take and do a few bits of shape to kind of do a block out. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. And let's see, so I'm just gonna try to use like a few different things, like a bevel. So I'm gonna try to bevel some edge. Let's see, we get edge look partial, and I'll do one single row for now, just to keep things really low. At least that's not terminate. Let's see. So the others look complete. One row. No, I don't want to do that. That might work. So just to soften it up and have a look at the form. Just like the cab and forks, but let's do this. Do one there, and keep the here, and go around this side. Keep that bubble kind of smooth and around there. To there. Maybe one up here. And at least I can sculpt off of just like a sort of hardened deal, and maybe I'll do some booleans later. So I'm just gonna try to keep a few shapes just simple for now. Crease a line here, and here, down here, up front. I love creasing down with the Z modeler. It's like my most favorite thing, because a lot of times when I do sculpts and stuff like that, maybe hard surface stuff, I tend to, the old way was just using the lasso tool and selecting faces and then polygrouping that, and then like especially when you do a retopo of something and you have something where you want to harden it up, and now with the Z modeler it's just like zip zip zip, get it done. Love it. One in there, keep that hardened up just a tad. Might have to fix that part, a little broken stuff where it looks like it's pinching. There. So I guess I suppose if I have something like this, well, that looks kind of funky. It's probably a face that needs to be welded back in there. My bad. However, open up these, dynamic subdiv, and crank this up just a bit. There we go. And let's see, I'll go ahead and apply the division. Then I'll delete lower. And from that, I think I'm going to go ahead and die mesh it. No blur, polish on. And 128 is fine, I suppose, for this, so I'll go ahead and die mesh it. That's weird. Yep. Whoops. There we go. Sorry about that. It's like, why is there... Yes, I just started using it. I thought it would be cool to kind of... Hey Dan, what's up? I thought I would kind of try blocking out some of the shapes that I had drawn. So I figured, heck, it would be kind of cool to kind of sculpt in some stuff. At least for a paint over, it might be kind of cool. To do something like this and then turn it into line art. So it's kind of a spinner crunch, I suppose. Yeah, it was pretty fun. So, like, even if you, I think on Instagram, if you go and you have a look, oops, hit the wrong key, sorry. If you have a look on Instagram, and I think you do a search for the spinner challenge, it will have something on it. There's like a bunch of results now. I was like really impressed, and I thought it was a treat that everybody did some stuff. It's pretty cool. So let's see. Actually, I'm gonna do a little cliff curving on it. Take just a little bit of slope off, like so. Try this trim dynamic again. This time I'm going to turn on a little lazy mouse on it. Damien standard sketching on it, just so I can do some landmarks. So like, Damien standard is one of those brushes, man. I swear to God, everybody talks about it, but I totally think of it as like a pencil for clay. Like I love it for that reason. It's really great for just once you start doing some shapes, trying to, just like sketch on a basic piece of clay, and it's pretty cool for that. So I love it. I love it greatly. Yeah, there was some really cool participation. It was pretty awesome. Let's see, what kind of shape language. I'm always checking like between drawing and sculpt, and seeing what I want to change in the clay, sort of find some forms. See here, do a little mask off. There we go. So I'm just masking off really quick. It's kind of basic stuff, but anyone who's new to ZBrush, just drawing a mask on a clay, holding Control, clicking on the canvas should invert it, and then I can go ahead and continue masking, making sure that before I turn a certain area into a polygroup, I can mask and then turn that mask into a specific polygroup. So I'm doing this because I want to take this little chunk here and just deform the shape and pull it out. So I'm going to use symmetry and pull it out. So I guess that would be alright. And then what I'll do is I'll re-Dynamesh, so I'm using Dynamesh now. Just need to sculpt up that bit. So a little detail is lost, because when you re-Dynamesh, like, what it does is it reorders the points on a mesh, as you know. And so I'm just gonna, you know, play around with having pulled out a section of it. Oops. There we go. Hide that bit, and hide this little bit, and use clip curve, and a little out. So I'm using the space bar to move around the clip curve. Cool tool, but basically what it does is it just flattens the geo. Then I can unhide everything and bring it back. Do a re-Dynamesh again. And then I'm going to sketch a little bit more on it with the Damien standard. I'm sorry, I'm actually broadcasting from my home, and it's a bit hot out here in the valley, but I have a fan going, which I should probably lower, but if it gets too persistent, let me know, and I'll be sure to try to turn it off. It's either that or it's my machine. It might be my machine. I can hear my fans going. So nothing to do with ZBrush, of course, but I have a pretty big tower. Waiting for the announcement for the landing? That's awesome. So I'm just using like a few basic tools to kind of try to sculpt some stuff in. I think probably most of you are familiar with these, but you know, I'm just shaping stuff up using like sometimes I'll use clay buildup, or I use just the regular tube clay. Sometimes clay buildup with the smoothing turned up a little bit. It's a nice one, especially in and around just like concept meshes, you know, where you're not sure what your shapes are going to be. You don't want to commit anything too soon, but just want to gather some shapes. That also works. In fact, something like clay buildup. If you go into the brushes, I believe under modifiers, there is a smoothing step that you can bring up, and it just softens it up, especially with the hard square alpha. Kind of takes it out of it, so you can get some more smooth lumps of clay, which I like to fill this out. Yeah, something like that. In fact, I really want to reshape everything in here, so I'll do it now. I think that can work. So again, I add certain areas of clay, and then I just use H polish, harden it up. Been pretty good. How are you guys? Speaking of which, hard surface stuff. Anybody catch Vitaly down at Gnomon yesterday? It was really great. If you did, students of Gnomon Workshop down at the Gnomon campus. It was really awesome to finally meet Vitaly Bulgarov and see a lot of his works. It's an excellent show. So I recommend it if you're local to the Los Angeles area. I might, yes, probably. Right now I'm just kind of messing around with kind of shaping up the object. Some funky shapes. And I like to always try and just build a mesh out from just a block of like clay. It doesn't even really at this point probably look that interesting, but once you get things shaped out, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. So yes, I would use some panel looping. Let's see here. Oops. Take this. Go back this way. And let's see here. I think put a selection right in here. Oops. There we go. Clip this out. There we go. And so, if some of you might notice, like I have polish turned on to my dye mesh with blur down at 0. So, I mean, 128 is probably a pretty low number. I think it's the default number, but it's probably enough for me to kind of clean the mesh and then just start over by sketching in some more like major forms. So it's kind of a weird process of just like trying to build up shape. And then there's a couple of different ways. Either I could topologize some shapes and build it out, or I could just continue to polygroup certain points, and then like there's not much to the polygroups right now. You could probably take it, fill it, and then paint in a mask and individually start taking pieces and doing like polygrouping, which might be handy later, because I can take the piece and I can split it, and then I can sculpt up the actual individual shapes by pulling out and extracting their back a bit. So if I was to do something like that, in fact, I guess I could show you. So if I masked off these areas here, in fact, let's just do this. I'll do mask curve, mask off that side, harden the mask. Just a quick note, a little shortcut that I use for hardening up mask and or softening it is, of course, if you are holding control and you click on it once, so control and clicking on the mask will actually blur it. Control Alt and clicking on the mask will tighten it. And then so that way, if I click on the canvas holding control again, I can reverse it. And then I can mask off, like say the body. And I can do Control W to create a new polygroup. So once I do something like that, and I learned this really from watching some of the streams of Michael Pavlovich. It was like an excellent workflow. So do check out some of his sculpting techniques, because I guarantee you can learn a lot. But I would hide something like this, and then I could do like a split. So I get some here. So split hidden, and then when it's split hidden, after split hidden, what I would do is just go to like a modified topology and close holes, and then it would put like a triangulated backing on it. But at least that I could mask off itself, and then use the transpose tools to pull out, and then further develop the shape. So it's pretty cool. Rather than going ahead and just doing like a retopology on everything and making, you know, tight creased surfaces, like I can kind of develop at least raw shapes like these that way. So Grow Shrink Mask does have a hotkey, but you know what? Off the top of my head, it escapes me. My absolute suggestion is go and look at the ZDocs, which can answer most questions. It's awesome. I love ZDocs. I read it in my spare time. Was there any answer, Mode Factor? No? Here, let's see if we can find out. So, let me see here. I will literally go and search and see if I can find it myself. ZDocs. Okay, so let's see here. You wanted to grow mask, yes? Thought I could just search for it. Wait a minute. Masking, auto masking, transpose, plain stop. Oop, there we go. Paint mask. You know what? You may be right. There is the inverting part. Blur mask, unmask area. Yep. So W is for the polygrouping, and then there's mask by topology. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I believe you could probably set it. You should probably be able to customize the interface and/or just map your keys for the function, and I'm pretty sure that you could probably. Yeah, they might not assign it. But I'm sure you could probably assign the key to whatever shortcut you wanted. Okay. There we go. this and move it down a little bit. And actually, this. There we go. That little dip will be a little bit better. There. What? Let's see here. I will, once I get some shapes going, probably there's a few spots that I'm just going to do like some simple topology just to gather the shape after I do like a little bit of a concept mesh. So I'm just kind of sketching on a piece of clay. Essentially, like I like to have a shape kind of just like meshed out, so I'll use Dynamesh to just like usually make sort of like a simple base mesh and build up some shapes, and then I like to retopologize those, and then when they're cleaner, or when the parts are cleaner, then I like to go in and try to, on major forms, do like a Boolean and start building up shapes from that are hard cut, like really hard cut stuff. So right now I'm just kind of messing around sketching. I wanted to take at least one episode of this and start from a base, and then maybe I'll do a little bit more work in the next stream and keep it going and just show different ways of working, so that it's a little bit more inclusive on how I build an asset and then use it in 2D later. So even if I did a concept mesh or a static mesh that really I don't have to do any like topology on or texturing on, nothing that's special, what I can do is later just place that and use it as a guide for building up shapes for a 2D paint. So what I'll try to do is just like paint over one and then create another version where I do like a line art version, and then from that I'll show again how I use stuff for like comics. And what I want to do is actually take the asset and print it out as line art and do some hand drawing on top of a ZBrush drawn object. I think that would be pretty cool. So in other words, kind of going in the reverse, because usually I draw things and then I try to build it, or I make an attempt at building it, or somebody else is going to build it. But I think it would be interesting to do something in ZBrush with in mind to actually use as line art and then use hand-drawn line art on it. I think you guys might dig that. So like, you'll actually see me bust out some inking tools and actually draw some stuff out that was originated in ZBrush. I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah. So really, stuff like this, you don't have to be, a professional to novice, even level sculptor. I mean, I think most people, if they come from a 2D background, they can use something like this to do a proper drawing. And by proper, I only mean like using the, playing with shapes and building them out, and then using some of the perspective, and then doing a render of that, and then painting over that. It's probably a lot more accurate than doing like a brewer method and drawing something up, or using like a perspective with the transference of scale, and then building up an object, doing a drawing and construction. I mean, I do believe in that, but if you, for time constraint wise, you could angle something like this up and then do a drawing. So like almost at a similar angle to what I was working on, you know, I could further the concept by using this and overlapping it and doing either a more superior line drawing or, you know, painting it out. So yeah, it's actually, you know, like I think especially when I do things like graphic novels or storytelling, it would be easier for me to do a lot of hard surface designs incorporated by doing ZBrush and using like a basic model and then drawing over that. Where I can say in one panel have a rear shot POV, and then I could turn it, you know, and do something like this, and, you know, show like under the carriage, and, you know, more of a perspective shot all around. So that would be cool. I'm going to turn off symmetry really quick. I want to do something to the shaping of the inside fork. So I'm just going to, oops, wrong tool. Okay, so right now I'm just going to try to change some stuff while it's hidden. I want it to clip some parts, but it's on the inside of this. And then, let's see, use a mask here, a mask here, and mask that up just a little bit more. Clip it here. And clip it here. There we go. Well, maybe not. Oh, I see it. Too far. Ah. So over here on Modify Topology, I'm just going to do a little quick mirror and weld so I can get the symmetry back, re-dynamesh it, keep going. Let's see here. Oops. Totally forgetting. Had to go back a few moves. Sorry. Yeah, I know. Perspective makes it a little bit wonky, doesn't it? Totally was not even thinking about it. But yes, thank you. Yeah, I know, exactly. That's why sometimes I'm just like, nah, we'll leave it. You know. because I can always straighten it out later. Like even, I think probably like from something like this, what I'll do is like I'll keep it low and just block out some shape, and then what I do is I'll like take and crank up the Dynamesh volume or the number, the resolution, and then once I can get more details in, then just squeeze the shapes out of it. Yeah, I mean, you could, like, I left ZModeler a little bit early, but you could totally, go in with a ZModeler and just kind of noodle with it and, really pluck out some shapes from just simple poly, and it just keeps getting more and more complex. It's really cool for some, like, really cool, like, quick, like, poly editing. So again, just masking off shapes using a little bit of like hard polish and Damien standard to like kind of build up some stuff. Also clay brushes. I'm not really worried about the evenness of just larger shapes. I just want to kind of get some volume. So I'll go through a couple of cycles of doing this with Dynamesh and then re-Dynameshing it. And then sketching on the clay so I can find like the next line or shape. It is fun. It is very much fun. Like it's almost like old tricks are the best tricks kind of thing. And then you just find like what works. So I'll re-pencil this in after making sort of like a inset there. In fact, I think I have a tool here, a brush I can use for such a thing. Actually, let's do drag rec. Take a nice little circle out of this. Nice little circle out of that. There, maybe in there. I know, right? wanted to just get like the carriage and the forks kind of into what I was thinking. I was looking at this beautiful car the other day. It was when I was trying to think of ideas for the spinner challenge, I was up really late night and almost delirious, and I was drawing, and I saw this. I think I was pinning some stuff on Pinterest, and saw this. I think it's probably a 1960s model of or maybe 70s, probably late 70s Maserati. It was a boomerang, I believe it was. It had this awesome, nice shape in the windows, where it had like a split pane, and it totally matched from what I was thinking. Some of the shapes of something for like a spinner, and how the new spinner designs. I believe it's George Hull is the designer for the spinner. I believe there's so many great people that worked on that film. Like Carlos Fuente and I believe Emmanuel Shui, George Hull, Mike Hill. They all did props and stuff for the 2049 film. And I was really impressed with it. But I looked at some older sort of like retro cars from either like late 70s throughout the 80s. That sort of boxy, angular look was really attractive. Made for a nice spinner. Married some of the visual language of both. So like every time I build something like this, that's probably one of my greatest concerns, is like how do forms pair up, and really becoming a sort of just like a shape player, man. Just like you take shapes and try to commit some of your own details of muscle memory. I think everybody has sort of like an instinctual aesthetic that impresses them, at least for a time, and whatever that is, finding and investigating that in something like ZBrush can be a lot of fun. So that's where I'm at. Tighten this just a bit. And let's see. I'm going to move it out. Go. So let's see here. Actually, you know what? I'll go back one and I'll change this. Oops. Up just a bit. Do that. That way I can hold a little bit more detail. It was looking a little choppy. Like every time I re-dynamesh some stuff. Again, if anybody has any questions, I know I'm kind of doing some simple things today, but if you have any other questions, especially regarding perhaps even last stream, please do let me know. I know I need to probably view some messages. I know some folks every once in a while send me messages after the stream, and I don't always see it, especially if it's from someplace like Facebook. It might filter it out, but do let me know. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. See, I'm not paying attention. There we go. Yes, ZBrush would be a good way to just like take it and take the whole thing and get a simple mesh out of it, for sure. Actually, you know what's funny is, like, as I was mentioning earlier, and I might actually start to do this now that I have some mesh that they cranked up the Dynamesh, but like once I start drawing on the surface like I'm doing now, what I do is, say if I had a panel, either I could panel loop this and pluck like specific shapes out, and that would make sense. But I can also take specific areas and just, again, just mask them out. And then I'll flip it or invert the mask. Make sure it's tight enough. Get a little bit more overage down there. There we go. And then just polygroup that. And so later, I'll just take something like this and, you know, hide it, select it, split it. Like, let's say I'll do a duplicate of this, just one subtool. Okay. Got the same polygroups and whatnot on it. But I'll take and just hide everything else, and I'll do a split from hidden. And then once I have that single piece, I'll hide the other two here, because it actually took it apart. I could have deleted it, or delete hidden, which might have been a little bit smarter, but same principle. So I can take this, go down to Modify Topology, close holes, and then you get this triangulated face on the back. And then of course, you know, you just take and mask that off. So I controlled with a move transpose, and then I could move it outward. And if I needed a piece that I needed to give it some quick thickness, then I can just sculpt up and build this. Okay? So you turn it off and it looks like this. Re-Dynamesh it. I could further use the clip curve brush on it, and then it's a brand new piece of geometry to use. Yeah? And you clean up the back a little bit, you know, and take some pieces off. Move this around here. Do that. Before you know it, you get to noodling with it, and it'll turn into a nice clean shape. So even on something like this, where I know it's going to be a plate that has symmetry, I'll take it and just, you know, turn X off. Oops, sorry. Selection. Turn X off, hide one piece, and then I'll work on this piece or panel for a while, detail it, get it shaped up. I will delete hidden. Shape this up a little bit more. Let's see. I love Malika's the Black's good old polishing tools. Has a nice effect. Especially, you know, polishes, interestingly enough, I think I've heard this before, and I use it a lot from somebody else. I'm not sure where I heard it, but when you're using any of the hardened H-polish brushes, you can actually hold Alt and bend out, and then smooth it back out. And, you know, like you would think of a brush operating in the negative, the polish brushes do about the same. So you can bring it out, and it gives it a little lip, and then you can just, without holding Alt, push it back down and flatten it. Yeah. So as it gets cleaner and cleaner, I keep working it into shape. Yeah, exactly. It's a little in and out. Just enough to where you need to kind of push objects into shape. Let's just keep it taking part in this. And then, once I get it shaped up, or, I might keep working on it, but I could just take it and do, actually, hold on a second. That looked a little bit warped. But yeah, you could ZBrush something like this, but I'm just going to take it and do a mirror and weld, and then, keep on sculpting back on my main form. And I could take this guy and maybe move it up. There we go. And get like an extra plate that sits on top of that or something like that. Or if I needed to part out a specific model, I could do that. So it's cool way to work, just cutting out, just cut the piece, move it around a little bit. It's kind of almost like a manual way of doing panel loops, but like if you wanted to have that specific geometry or pull it out, shell it, have enough extra flap to move around, do like something like a reveal. Extract as well works, and awesomely enough, you could use a topology brush. That's something that I do a lot. You could use a topology brush to build out like a surface piece and then pull that right off. So BT, and then just going to the topology brush, size down a bit, because whatever the thickness of the topology that you're going to make is going to be what the brush size is. So you can just draw out pieces like so. You can draw a piece here, a piece here, and here. And when they cross and intersect, the face will actually turn yellow, continuing from the same stem. Good. So I broke something, so actually I should cut that piece off, go from there, and keep going. It takes a few tries every once in a while, but you can pretty much just hold Alt and get rid of like the overage, the stem that goes over the path, and do like this maybe. And once you got it, you got it. There's another piece, and then I can hold Alt and kill that, and kill that, and that. So that would actually have a try in it. That's why it's red, so no good for that. Well, actually I should go from this side up. There you go. And kill that and that and that. And then you could probably take something like this and tap Alt, and it would be exactly the same piece as the brush size, the thickness would be. But this is still on the same subtool, so one of the things that I would need to do is actually I would need to split it. So split unmasked parts, and it'll make a new piece of shell. Like a poly piece that I can now take and just pull outward, and that would be one piece that I could use. And whatever the brush size thickness was is exactly how much I have on the reverse side. Yeah. So of course this has its own polygroups, and ZBrush is generous enough to actually go ahead and do some nice creasing on the edge. So even if I looked at this, it would look more like this if I started to subdivide it. So I use dynamic subdivision to kind of check some shaping and stuff like this. makes a new piece of topology, yes. So then, you know, I could draw on the contour of my concept mesh, and I could make a new piece of geometry, and I could move this around where I wanted to, or take and scale this up, use it as like air brake fins, which actually it kind of is reminiscent to the actual drawing that I did, where it has like instead of the regular rounded pods on a spinner, I have like some actual foils that come out with an actual like pylon. Yeah. So I'll be messing around with something like this, and probably getting more detailed shapes in. And I would like, of course, to use some of the new Boolean systems. So I'm going to try to prepare for that. So right now I think I'm coming up on going about 30 minutes over, but this is just the basic concept mesh that I'm just kind of doing, and so I just wanted to do something simple to show you kind of how to shape up some volume. And next time around, we're going to do a little bit more detailing on the surfaces, plucking out some of the parts and sculpting those up. And then when I have them, I'm going to shoot them in two different directions. One, I'll try to do like a BPR, maybe that I'll do a paint over, and the same probably also for keyshot, using the keyshot bridge, shooting geometry back and forth, checking lighting. And quite frankly, it's pretty simple, but when you are using the render tab, and if you have the bridge tool installed and licensed, you can go ahead, of course, and just use the external render, turning on keyshot, which will prepare the model and shoot it over to keyshot, of course, right? So from there, you know, keyshot direction, I use their tune shaders and then tweak them into shape, and then I want to do actually some probably some stuff using like actual like, you know, just like maybe a BPR pass, so I can layer up some layers of, you know, the mask and ambient occlusion, of course, passes, and maybe set those into a Photoshop file and then just do like an actual like paint over of it. I think that would be a cool thing. And then another pass will be where I actually do a 2D pass by hand and actually take the 3D model and draw it out using a 3D model inside of ZBrush. So that way, at least if I did something like a turnaround design, showing back, front, and side views, or even simple, you know, blockouts for doing orthographic drawings, I could do it very similar to how I have it by drawing by hand, right? And so you can set up all your shapes very nicely in ZBrush. So just like, you know, within the last hour, I think I could probably have moved faster. You'll have to forgive me, I just came out of another class that I teach and straight into the stream. So it's been a busy day, but you know, you get relaxed, get a cup of coffee, start noodling with different shapes, and of course, you know, you can build it up into something really, really awesome. So I want to thank you again for joining me today, and I'm sure to be continued in the next round. Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, thank you. Stay tuned. Yeah, I'll be back, and we'll try to finish it up a little bit more. Cheers. You guys have a good weekend.